Good morning, everyone. My name is Ankit, and you're watching the Indian Express analysis, which we provide you daily at 10 a.m. on the StudyIQ IS English channel. Now, in this discussion, what we do is we analyze the articles primarily from the perspective of prelims, mains, and interview discussion, and we also ensure to provide you with the practice MCQs as well as practice mains question so as to inculcate the habit of answer writing and problem solving. Now, this ability to solve the problems on a daily basis will help you immensely, particularly because you have to appear in the exams. And in this exam, not just knowledge is important. What is more important is whether you're able to apply the knowledge in the exam pressure kind of a situation or not. Understood? So, in our today's discussion, we will be covering important articles from our today's Indian Express newspaper, and as you can see from the table of content which I have provided behind me, first three articles they come from the polity section. Now usually at the time when parliament is in recess, we do not witness too many articles belonging to polity. However, today was different. Why? On the first page itself there were two news highlighting the importance of constitutional bodies, and also there are another article particularly with respect to the Union Territory of Delhi, because the state government in the NCT Delhi, that is Aam Aadmi Party led government, it has refused to table the Comptroller and Auditor General's report on various audits, particularly with respect to NCT Delhi. So we'll try to take a look into the issue in addition to understanding the roles and responsibilities exhibited by the Comptroller and Auditor General. Also, on the first page itself, there is a news that selection for India's next Chief Election Commissioner has begun, because the current Chief Election Commissioner, Mr. Rajiv Kumar, will retire on February 18th, and hence India requires a new Chief Election Commissioner. Further, in the second article, we discuss the Advocate General of the state, and this was in news because the Advocate General of Jammu and Kashmir has not been appointed yet, despite the fact that the state government is in power for more than 2 months. So what is the issue? What is Advocate General of the state? We'll try to understand. Now, fourth article is related to Panthera tigris, which is a biological name of tigers in India. Now, these tigers, they exhibit different kind of behavior, one of which is they go on long walks, so much so that they traverse hundreds and hundreds kilometers of territory in search for newer territories, in search for mates. So we'll try to understand all the important aspects related to tigers, particularly from the prelims perspective. From the economy section today, we have this news as India's index for industrial production figures were released yesterday by the NSO, and it highlights that IIP level has increased in the month of November. Also, the last topic of the day relates to H1B visa, because H1B visa is in news because of the oncoming swearing in of the new president of United States, Mr. Donald Trump, and how Donald Trump's policy favors or disfavors a section of immigrants into US, and particularly we'll discuss that article from the perspective of H1B visas, which are used or issued to people belonging to high skilled category. So this is all for our today's discussion. But before moving into our today's discussion, let me highlight the importance of subscribing to the Telegram group called ATS Live. Now, in this Telegram group, I frequently interact with students. I provide them with the notes of this session after the session ends, and I also encourage my students to involve or get involved themselves in the answer writing practice, because ultimately you just do not have to clear prelims, but you also have to clear mains so that you can give the interview. And for that, the daily habit of answer writing is very essential, which you can practice on this Telegram group. Also, I put many relevant reels from the UPSC's perspective on my Instagram handle, the link to which is given in the QR code, and you can also search ANKTSNGH on Instagram and it will take you to my Instagram handle. Having said that, before moving to our today's discussion, let us try to solve the prelims question that I had given you yesterday as a practice. Now, with reference to Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi, abbreviated as PM Kisan, consider the following statements. Now, it is a central sector scheme with contributions from central government only. Now, there is a habit among students that whenever there is an absolute statement saying all or only, they have a habit of marking that statements as incorrect. But let me tell you, the UPSC paper setting panel is more smarter than aspirants, because they know what the aspirants are thinking and they frame their statements accordingly. So from that example, PM Kisan indeed is a central sector scheme, which means the entire monetary contribution for funding of this scheme is done by central government only. Therefore, first statement here is a correct statement. So do not fall into the trap of automatically marking the absolute statements as incorrect, because in many cases, for instance, in this statement, you can find these statements to be correct. Moving to the second statement, under the scheme, income support is provided only to small and marginal families. Now, when the scheme was introduced, it was only available to small and marginal families of farmers, and they only got the income support. But after that, the benefit of this scheme is extended to all farmers and not just small and medium farmers. There are some exemptions, but naturally it is given to all farmers in our country. Therefore, second statement is incorrect. Now, from the above discussion, we can safely say option 1 is right, and we have to identify correct statements. Hence, option A here is the right answer to the first question. Now, good morning, Bulbul. Good morning, Davanand. Good morning, Augustine. Siddharam, Revolutionary. Good morning, Baga Spinks. Now, Baga Spinks, if you are missing the newspaper analysis from Hindu and PIB, I make sure that I cover all the articles, and sometimes there are articles which are given in Hindu as well as Indian Express. So I pick only those articles from the Indian Express which has relevant from UPSC's perspective, and one day or the other you will find the same articles mentioned in the Hindu as well. So there is no instance that I am missing out on any important articles. Please be assured of that. Now, good morning, Bhaskar. Good morning, Narsimha. Now, yes, as I was saying, the mains practice question for the day, it relates to Chief Election Commissioners and other election commissioners appointment, condition of service and terms of office act, which was passed recently in 2023, because the Supreme Court of India mandated the government to enact a legislation in the parliament through which the government eventually will appoint the Chief Election Commissioners and other election commissioners. So we'll try to understand what are the important or significant changes made in this act and how it changes the selection process and service conditions of the Election Commission of India. And we'll try to analyze the impact of this legislation on independence and functioning of Election Commission. And we have to make sure of writing this question not in 250 but in 150 words, and that will make things challenging. So I'll practice this question before the session ends, so please stay tuned on how to write the mains answers. And having said that, let us try to start our first article of the day, which appeared on the very first page or the front page of the Indian Express, and naturally it also relates to the selection of next Chief Election Commissioner, because as I told you earlier, India's current Chief Election Commissioner, Mr. Rajiv Kumar, is expected to retire on the 18th of February, and as there's a provision that no election commissioners can be reappointed by the government, so naturally you mean there will be a new election commissioner, and possibly that commissioner can also be designated as the next Chief Election Commissioner. Now, the provisions or the appointment of the Chief Election Commissioners, earlier it was made through a convention well established by the government, because government, particularly the executive, was solely responsible for appointing the Chief Election Commissioners, because there was no legislation passed by the Parliament in this regard. However, after Supreme Court of India took the matter into cognizance and highlighted that indeed the government needs to enact a bill and it can only appoint the Chief Election Commissioners and election commissioners based on the provisions of the bill, it has passed in the Parliament. So now we see that there has been an act passed by the Indian Parliament called Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners appointment, condition and services and terms of office act, and according to this only act, the new appointments in the election commissioners can be made. Understood? So this is the context of our article. What is important from from our exams perspective is what the role of Election Commission of India is all about, and how the appointments of Chief Election Commissioners and other important election commissioners are made according to the provisions of this act. Now, there was this mistake I found in today's newspaper, and I'll tell you what the mistake is. Okay. Now, as I was saying, first let us understand what are the roles and responsibilities of Commission of India, and for that we have to take a look at what are the relevant constitutional provisions in regards of Election Commission of India and Chief Election Commissioners. Now, the relevant constitutional provision, first of all, is Article 324 of the Indian Constitution, which highlights superintendence, direction and control of elections. It will be vested in the Election Commission of India. Now, which elections will be looked after by Election Commission of India? Let us try to look at first subclause of the Article 334. It states that elections to the Parliament, legislative or legislature of every state, as well as elections to the office of President and Vice President will be looked after by the Election Commission of India, and in doing so, the Election Commission of India is also responsible for preparation of electoral rolls, which is a sum index of all the people who are eligible to vote in these kind of elections. Understood? Now, for this purpose, Election Commission of India, it includes a Chief Election Commissioner and any such number of election commissioners if the president from time to time may fix. So, this is the relevant constitutional provision, that is Article 324, which states what are the responsibilities of Election Commission, that it looks after the election of Parliament, state legislatures, as well as election to the offices of President and Vice President of India. And in doing so, it is headed by a person called Chief Election Commissioners and also any number of election commissioners as fixed by the President of India from time to time. Understood? Now, let us try to take a look at the provisions of what the Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissions appointment, conditions of service and terms of office act highlights about this issue. Now, this act says that appointment and term of commissioners and Chief Election Commissioner should be as such that Election Commission will consist of, first of all, a Chief Election Commissioner and such number of election commissioners as the President of India may fix from time to time, which I have already highlighted it to you. Now, the Chief Commissioner of India and other Chief Election Commissioners, they are appointed by which constitutional body? Are they appointed by the government? No, they are appointed by the President of India by warrant under his hand and seal. But can President actually appoint anyone as the Chief Election Commissioner? The answer is no, because in this act there are qualifications and the process which is given on how to appoint and which persons should be appointed as Chief Election Commissioners and other election commissioners. So, let us try to take or understand even that. Now, Chief Election, what are the first of all qualification, on what kind of qualification a person needs to have if they want to be elected as Chief Election Commissioners or other election commissioners. And in this regard, Section 5 of the particular act which we are discussing today, it states that they should be appointed among the persons who hold a post equivalent to the rank of Secretary to the Government of India. So, only people who have been Secretary to the Government of India or an equivalent position in the government, only those persons can be appointed as CEC or the election commissioners. Now, they also need to be the persons of integrity. They should have knowledge and experience in management and conduct of elections. So, in addition to being a secretary, they should also have an experience and knowledge of how to conduct an elections, and only these persons are eligible to be appointed as Chief Election Commissioner. So, this is the qualification of the persons who are eligible. Now, let us try to understand what is the process involved through which the government or the President appoints the election commissioners and Chief Election Commissioner. Now, the process, it begins with a search committee. Now, this search committee is headed by the Cabinet Secretary of India. If you look at today's newspaper, it is saying it is headed by Law Minister, but according to this act, and I have provided you the screenshot, this search committee is headed by Cabinet Secretary and it comprises of 2 other members who will not be below the rank of Secretary to the Government of India. So this committee consists of 3 persons, that is cabinet secretary plus 2 other members who may be the secretary to the government of India, and they will identify persons who have knowledge and experience in respect to conduct of elections, and they will provide a list of as many as 5 persons. So this search committee will identify 5 persons who are eligible to be appointed as chief election commissioners and election commissioner, and this list is sent to a selection committee. Now, what is this selection committee? Let's try to find it out. Now, this selection committee for appointing of the members of election commission, it is headed by the Prime Minister of India, who acts as a chairperson of this committee. It consists of leader of opposition in the House of People, that is Lok Sabha, which currently is Mr. Rahul Gandhi, and he will be a member of this committee in addition to a union cabinet minister who will be nominated by the Prime Minister of India. This person acts also as a member. So this selection committee, it consists of 3 people, and these 3 people will be responsible in identifying which of the 5 persons provided by the search committee who will be appointed as chief election commissioner or the election commissioners. Now, in case if any party in the House of People does not have the majority enough to be called as an opposition party, in that case the single largest opposition party or its head of the party in Lok Sabha will be designated as a leader of opposition for the purpose of selection committee. Understood? So this is what the act highlights of what constitutes the selection committee and how the selection committee identifies members from the list given by the search committee. Understood? Now, let us try to understand the tenure and terms of office of the chief election commissioner. The chief election commissioner and other election commissioners, they will hold an office for a term of 6 years or before they attain the age of 65 years. Now, whichever of this is earlier, the term or tenure of the chief election commissioner ends then. Now, these chief election commissioners and other election commissioners, they are not eligible to be reappointed as another election commissioner. So that is why you understand the terms of office, they can only discharge their duties once in their career. Now, whenever an election commissioner is appointed as a chief election commissioner, he will not have an additional 6-year tenure, but the sum total of his tenure when they are serving in Election Commission of India will have to be at max 65 years or the age of 65 years or 6 years in tenure. So the combination of the tenure is considered, not the sum total of 6 years after an election commissioner is appointed as a CEC. Understood? Now, sorry if you find my energy levels low today, I am not feeling that well. Thank you for your well wishes, Baga Spinks. Now, as I was saying, let us try to solve the first practice question that I have curated on the Act. With reference to appointments of election commissioners in India, consider the following statements. Now, Chief Election Commissioner is appointed by the President of India under his hand and seal. This is a correct statement, as I have told you. The tenure and conditions of service of election commissioners are determined by the Constitution. Is it so? The answer is no, because I have already told you the tenure and service conditions of the election commissioner are determined by the Act which I have highlighted and not by the Constitution, as the Constitution says that an Act of Parliament will determine the tenure and conditions of service. So, therefore, the second statement here is incorrect. Moving to the third statement, the decisions of Election Commission of India are taken by a majority among Chief Election Commissioner or the election commissioners. Now, you have to understand this third statement, as there is a 3-member who acts as an election commission. So, if any decision is taken, it is taken by a majority. What if the chief election commissioner agrees on one point and other 2 election commissioners agrees on another point? So, then the other 2 election commissioners have a majority, and in that case, the decisions made by chief election commissioners will be overruled. So, technically, the chief election commissioner is not the boss of other election commissioners, but he is just a one among equals. Understood? So therefore, third statement here is correct. Now we have to identify correct statements. First and third are correct. Therefore, our correct answer to this question is option C. Yes, Bhaskar, you're right. Bhaga Spinks, you're also right. Option C is the right answer to this question. Now moving on to the another article. This one also appeared on the very first page, also belonging to the polity section. Understood? Now this article, it states that even after 2 months in power of the new government in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, even then the new Advocate General of the state has not been appointed. Now why has he not been appointed? Because the earlier Advocate General resigned. However, he continued to remain in office because the new Advocate General has not been appointed. But now that Advocate General of the state who was appointed previously, he has been involved in the private practice of law also. So this highlights that there is a vacuum in the state or the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir without an Advocate General. Now this matter was considered by the Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh High Court, and it has issued a notice to the government of Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir in this regard. So that is why this kind of an article becomes important primarily from a prelims perspective, because Advocate General of a state, in addition to the Attorney General of India, are an important constitutional office, and we have seen questions in prelims even occurring on many constitutional offices. So that is why we'll try to understand what is this Advocate General of the state is all about and how such positions are important from governance point of view. Now, as you can understand, Constitution of India, particularly Article 165, it provides for an Advocate General in any state government. Now, this Advocate General is the highest law office in the state, and you can correspond him directly with Attorney General of India, as Attorney General of the India is the highest law officer in the government of India. Similarly, Advocate General of a state is the highest law officer in any particular state. Now, this was given in Article 165, that is the Constitution article, therefore making it as a constitutional position. Understood? Now, let us try to understand what are the factors or conditions of appointment of Advocate General of India. Now, Advocate General of India is appointed by the governor of the state, and in union territories, he is appointed by the administrator or the lieutenant governor. Now, the conditions of appointment is that any person who shall be appointed as an Advocate General of India should be qualified enough to be appointed as a judge to a high court. Now, what is the qualifications for a judge of high court? First of all, he or she must be a citizen of India. In addition to that, he or she must have held a judicial office in our country for a period of 10 years or served as an advocate in any high court for 10 years. So, only those people who have fulfilled these conditions can be appointed as an Advocate General of the state. Now, what you understood the appointment process. Now, what is the term of office? Now, the term of office and procedure and grounds for removal of Advocate General of India, first of all, is not fixed by the Constitution. So, by convention, we have seen that the Advocate General of any state serves in the office as per the pleasure of governor, and if the government by virtue of governor decides to remove any Advocate General of a state, they can remove so by the order given by the governor. Now, there is a healthy convention in India because India is a parliamentary democracy, which means there is a possibility that the government might change after a period of 5 years. So, what happens to the Advocate General of India appointed by the previous government? So, in that case, there is a convention that the Advocate General of a state will resign when the government resigns or is replaced by another government because he is appointed by the advice of previous government. And accordingly, by following this very advice, the existing Advocate General of Jammu and Kashmir, he resigned because he was appointed by the administrator of Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir when there was no government or a democratically elected government in the state. However, even today, after 2 months of new government coming into power, a new Advocate General has not been appointed. So, this was the issue given in today's article. Understood? Now, what are the roles and responsibilities of Advocate General of India? First of all, you have to understand whenever he is discharging or performing his official duty, the Advocate General of the state is entitled to appear before any court of law within the state as a representative or the nominee of the state government, and he also has the right to speak and participate in the proceedings in the legislature of the state, and by doing so he can sit in any house of the state legislature. However, he will not have the right to vote on any bill. Therefore, he can participate, but when it comes to having the right to vote regarding to any act or bills passed by the state legislature, in that case the Advocate General does not have the right. Now, while doing so or discharging his duties, the Advocate General of State enjoys all the privileges and immunities which are otherwise provided to a member of state legislature. That is, he has a protection provided to the member of the state legislature, and then he can independently discharge his duties without the fear of prosecution by the public or the media. And these kind of protections are naturally extended to public representatives, so that to enable them to function without any pressure from the public. Understood? Now, let us move to third article of the day. This article, although is important from the state of or the NCT of Delhi, however, this includes a constitutional functionary called Comptroller and Auditor General of India, which makes this news of national significance. And also, as Comptroller and Auditor General are mentioned in the Constitution, therefore, such topics are important from our exams perspective also. Understood? Now, this topic belongs to polity section, hence important from GS paper 2 syllabus, and it appeared on page 4 in the Delhi edition. So, people who are reading other editions of the Indian Express from other parts of the country may not or necessarily not find this article, but although I am covering it in today's news, so please follow the discussions involved in this article. Now, the context of this article is that there has been allegations by many people in Delhi or even outside Delhi that the Aam Aadmi Party government has been involved in splurge of spending on construction and renovation of the CM house. Now, they have indulged so much so that the people of Delhi and people outside also are demanding an audit conducted by a constitutional functionary. And this audit indeed took place. However, the Aam Aadmi Party government is refusing to table the audit reports given by CAG in this regard in the House of NCT Delhi, and this has been the issue, as the report by the CAG has not been tabled by the Aam Aadmi Party in the Assembly of National Capital Territory of Delhi. So, this includes the discussions of Comptroller and Auditor General of India, that is CAG, and what are the conditions under which his report should be filed in the legislature of our country. So, first of all, let us try to understand some details about Comptroller and Auditor General of India. Comptroller and Auditor General of India primarily is responsible for auditing all the accounts pertaining to receipts and expenditures made by union government, state government, as well as those bodies and authorities who are substantially financed by the government. So, their accounts and the money they received and the money they spent on their official duties, they are audited by the Comptroller Auditor General of India, highlighting whether these expenditures made were according to the law and whether these expenditures were at all necessary for discharge of official duties. And Article 148 to 151, which is located in Part 5th of the Indian Constitution, this provides the appointment process, duties and reports of the CAG. And as far as appointment of CAG is concerned, he or she is appointed by the President of India under the warrant under his hand and seal. Now, recently there was this new CAG who was appointed by President of India, so therefore the probability of a question appearing in prelims, particularly with respect to CAG, is quite high. So that is why such article and its discussion were important from our today's perspective. Also, the tenure of office in which the CAG is in office is determined as per the CAG Duties, Powers and Conditions of Services Act, and this act states that the CAG holds office for a period of 6 years or up to the age of 65, whichever is earlier. So, this is very similar to the term and office of Election Commissioner of India. Now, let us try to understand how can CAG be removed from office, and there are two conditions. First of all, if the CAG decides to resign from office, he can submit his resignation through a letter given to President. But what if the government wants to remove the CAG? Is it an easy process? The answer is absolutely not. because you understand CAG is an important constitutional functionary and has roles and responsibilities of monitoring the expenditures of union government. So naturally, the process of removal of CAG should be made tough so that the government cannot just remove a CAG on its whims and fancies, and that is why removal of CAG can only be done in a manner or grounds based on the similar way in which a judge of Supreme Court is removed. For example, a CAG can be removed on two grounds, that is misadministration, on the grounds of misbehavior, and what is the process of removal of a judge of Supreme Court, which is same as that of removal of CAG. Now, whenever the government decides to remove a CAG, here the government should file a motion in the parliament, and this motion needs to be approved by 2/3 of members present and voting, and also more than 50% of total strength of the house. So these conditions, when they are fulfilled, only then the government can remove the CAG from the office. So you understand, this is a politically charged process and quite a difficult procedure. So that is why no CAG yet has been removed from office by the government. Now this was the terms of removal or resignation of office. Now let us try to understand what are the different kinds of audit that is conducted by CAG. Now there are technically three kinds of audit which is conducted by CAG. First of all is called compliance audit, and where the CAG determines whether the laws, rules and regulations passed by the government has been followed by the government in making any kind of expenditure or not. For example, if the government is discharging or taking the money out of Consolidated Fund of India, the CAG determines whether the government has taken the permission from parliament or not in this regard. So these are kind of laws, rules and regulations that should be adhered by the government, and this is what audited by CAG also. Also, there is another kind of audit called as performance audit, which assesses the implementation and effectiveness of various government schemes, whether government which is spending money to implement a scheme, it is effective in terms of outcomes on ground or not, and this is determined by performance audit. The third type of audit, it is called as financial audit, and it certifies the expenditures made by government from the accounts or even the accounts of public sector undertakings, because in these undertakings you understand the majority owner is the government itself, and hence they should also adhere to the rules which are applicable to government as well, and this is determined through a process of financial audit. So these are the three kind of audits. Now after the audits are completed, the CAG submits this report in case of union government to the president, and in case of state governments to the administrator of the union territory or the governor of a particular state. And similarly, such reports with respect to Delhi have been tabled to the LG, that is Lieutenant Governor of Delhi. However, what is the timeline for submission or laying of these reports in the assembly of a particular state? Now, first of all, Article 151 of the Constitution, it mandates that the government should lay the CAG reports in the parliament or state legislature, but while doing so, the article does not provide a specific timeline in this regard. So technically, it is mandatory for the government to submit the report in the house of the state or parliament. However, there is no specific time frame that beyond which they can even delay the submission of this report, and this is what the Aam Aadmi Party government is doing in Delhi. Similar incidences have also happened in other states, particularly state of West Bengal, where the Trinamool Congress government has refused to table the similar report of CAG into the Assembly of West Bengal. Now, CAG reports, they are submitted to the President of Governor, as I have already told you, and then they are tabled into the Parliament and State Legislature, which is decided by the government of state or union territory. And CAG reports cannot be published without they are first tabled in the legislature. So, therefore, the reports pertaining to NCT territory of Delhi, they have not been published, because for publishing you require first to submit them in the or table them in the state legislature. Understood? So this is the constitution provision related to tabling of reports, that although it makes it mandatory for the government to table the reports, but this does not provide a specific timeline, which we have seen is misused by many state governments. Understood? Now let us try to solve another practice question that I have curated with reference to Comptroller and Auditor General of India. Consider the following statements. The CAG is appointed by President of India and holds office for a term of 6 years or until the age of 65 years, whichever is earlier. You can see this is a straightforward statement and hence a correct statement. The CAG directly enforces accountability by taking disciplinary actions against public officials for financial regularity. Now, although CAG has a power to audit, but it does not have the power to enforce the decisions or the wrongdoings that it has found in the audit. This is the responsibility of the law and order bodies of union and state government, not the CAG. It is only responsible for the process of audit. So, second statement here is incorrect. Now, the duties and powers of CAG are defined by the parliament. It is again incorrect. As I have told you, duties and powers of CAG, they are defined by the Constitution of India itself, and it is only the conditions and terms of office which is determined by the parliament. So, third statement also is incorrect. From our discussion, we can only say the first statement was correct. Therefore, option A is the right answer. Understood? Baga Spings, is there a strategy to remember constitutional articles? No. Technically, you'll remember anything if you revise it multiple times. So, please do not stress on remembering the articles, just stress on revising the articles and you'll remember the terms and articles naturally. Something else, ये class कब start होती है? Something else, this class begins at 10 AM every day. Good morning, Kalpana. Good morning, Sauji. Now, as I tell you, every day you can access these videos on the website also. The link is provided here, and the benefits of accessing these videos not on YouTube but on website is that you will get access to the PPT and notes on the website itself directly. You will have an option to download the video for offline viewing and also test your learning by solving interactive MCQs which we provide on the platform. So, please make sure to go to this link on our website and you can register this course at a meager sum of just 1 rupees, which is not a very big deal. Understood? Now, let us try to move to another article. This one appeared in the explain section of Indian Express, that is page 14, and this article highlights the behavior that tigers exhibit in their day-to-day life, and such articles primarily are important from prelims perspective, but as it relates to conservation of tigers, therefore it is also important from GS paper 3 mains syllabus. Now, in the scope of our today's discussion, we will try to understand, as there was this news that last month a tigress who was from Odisha, Simlipal Tiger Reserve, she travelled all the way 300 kilometers to the state of West Bengal. And another male tiger, he has found its way all the way from Uttarakhand right here, that is Rajaji Tiger Reserve, and he has travelled and traversed the state of Himachal Pradesh and into the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, where that tiger was spotted near the line of control in the Poonch region by the army. So, this highlights that indeed the tiger, it travels longer distances, but we need to understand what forces or what enables this tiger to eventually travel and seek different localities. So, this is the context of our today's article. Now, if any species is in use, from our prelims perspective, we need to understand 3 important things. First of all, what is the legal status of protection offered to that species? Second is what kind of habitats and territories that species can be found, and third is their behavioral patterns. As these 3 aspects of a vulnerable species or species in use we have seen are asked in prelims, and therefore we'll also try to understand in our today's article what is first of all the legal status provided for protection of tigers, what are the habitats where you can find the tigers, and third, what are their behavior patterns. Understood? Now, let us start with first of all the significance of the tigers. It has been highlighted as a flagship species, which means it is important for conservation, and we have seen government is doing all it can to provide and conserve the population of tigers, and as a result we have seen in past 2 decades the population of tigers in India has grown twice. Understood? Now, it is also a keystone or umbrella species, which means conservation of tigers will automatically lead to conservation of other species in the area which is inhabited by tigers originally. So, these are flagship as well as umbrella species. Please know the difference between these two terms. First of all, that flagship species are identified by the government as they want to be conserved, and by conserving the flagship species, we ensure conservation of other species also, which makes these flagship species as umbrella species. Now, umbrella is like this. So, when you protect any animal here, you will protect all the other animals in this area. So, this is what umbrella species is all about. Now, what is the conservation status of a tiger? Tiger, according to Indian government, is categorized as an extremely protected species under Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act, which makes it illegal for people to hunt tigers, and if they do so, they will be subjected to strict criminal provisions. Also, as far as IUCN Red List is concerned, tiger is categorized as an endangered species, whereas Convention of Trade in Endangered Species, it is categorized as Appendix 1 species, which means trade in live tigers as well as tiger skins are prohibited. Understood? So, these are the conservation status regarding to three important aspects. Now, we have dealt with conservation status. Let us try to understand what are the important areas which is inhabited by tigers. Now, approximately 75% of world's wild tiger population resides in India, and India is home to approximately 3,682 tigers as per the latest survey conducted by National Tiger Conservation Authority. Now, the states in which tiger is found, the highest amount of tigers are found in Madhya Pradesh, and this is followed by Karnataka, as Madhya Pradesh has about 750 tigers, Karnataka has about 582 tigers. Now, in terms of protected areas, the tigers are highest amount of tigers are found in Jim Corbett National Park, which is located in Uttarakhand, and this is followed by Bandipur Tiger Reserve, which is located in the state of Karnataka. And there are total 53 tiger reserves in India, which has the population of 3,682 tigers. Now, in addition to India, tigers can also be found in countries such as Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, China and Myanmar. However, these are available in smaller populations in these countries. Now, the distribution of tiger is concerned, they are found in many kind of geographical locations, particularly in high mountainous region, mangrove swamps, tall grasslands, as well as dry and moist deciduous forest. Also, they are found in evergreen and shola forest systems. Shola are the forest systems belonging to the Nilgiri area in the state of Tamil Nadu. Understood? So, the area which has green patches, technically those areas are there and they support the population of tigers. Understood? Now, moving to the behavior of tigers. Now, coming to the behavior of tigers, you have to understand they do not live in groups, but rather they prefer to live alone. That is why they are solitary and territorial animal. I told you solitary, that they perform or they prefer to live alone, and territorial because they are very conservative and protective of their territories, that they do not tolerate if any other tiger from another territory crosses into their areas, and this results into a huge fights between tigers. Also, they are adept or they are quite comfortable in negotiating non-forest landscapes. Any landscape which even has a patch of greenery, such as man-made lands such as highways, canals, bridges, these can be navigated by tigers while they continue to remain out of sight for the nearby human population. Also, the dispersals of tiger are mostly done for exploratory purposes, as they do not follow linear patterns. However, they traverse large amount of distances using their instincts. And male tigers, they have a larger or greater probability of dispersal when compared to female tigers, because of this fact, male tigers, they usually cross and encompass larger territories, and as a result, tigers, they can even populate territories which has presence of multiple tigresses. However, a male tiger will make sure he will not get into a territory which has a presence of another male tiger. Understood? Now, as far as displacement distances are concerned, they are dispersed further distances when compared to female tigers than from the area of birth. So these are the behavior patterns of tigers. But we have to understand why, first of all, are tigers exploring new lands in general. This we'll understand this from this particular slide. Now, the search or dispersal of tigers belong for two different reasons. First of all, they search for newer territories or they search for female mates to. Now, there are many finite limits of forests, because forests, as you can understand, can only support a finite number of tigers. So, what if the forest does not have the carrying capacity to support any more tigers, and because of that, we see tigers exploring newer territories so that they are able to find food accordingly. Also, male tigers, they have a habit of establishing their own territory, and whenever there is another tiger in their own territory, we see they are involved in fight, and naturally the victor is in charge of a particular territory, and the tiger which loses the fight is eventually moves out of that particular territory. Now, they are also known to disperse in case they are moved to newer locations, as we have seen many tigers who have been shifted for population related activities into newer areas, so they do not find it very comfortable, and therefore they are prone to dispersals. And tigresses, they primarily disperse in order to protect their cubs from getting eaten by another male tigers. So these are the reasons why which tigers demonstrate the ability and they decide to disperse into newer territories. That is, they search for territories and they search for newer female tigresses to mate with. Understood? Now, let us try to solve a question. I have curated this question on a very similar lines to a previous year question belonging to elephant and their behaviors, which occurred in 2020 prelims of the UPSC. Now, with reference to tigers, consider the following statements. Tigers are solitary animals and males, they play an active role in raising cubs. Now, although they are solitary animals, however, they play no role in raising cubs, and raising cubs is a sole responsibility of female tigers. So, first statement here is incorrect. Now, tigers, they are known to establish and defend territories, with males often covering larger ranges as compared to females. I told you, male tigers have the larger propensity to cover greater area and further travel longer distances when compared to female. Therefore, second statement is correct. Now, the highest population of tiger in India, they are found in Madhya Pradesh. I told you Madhya Pradesh has about presence of 750 tigers, which is more than Karnataka, which has presence of about 582 tigers. Now, tigers, they are listed as critically endangered under IUCN Red List. Again incorrect, because I told you they are enlisted as endangered and not critically endangered. Understood? So, fourth statement is correct. Now, only second and third are correct. Therefore, A option is the right answer, because we had to identify correct statement. Understood? Now, let us move to another article. This article is from economy section and it appeared naturally in the business page of Indian Express. That was on page 15. Now, this article highlights that factory output in India, it has hit the 6-month high of 5.2% in November, and this is more than October, where IIP figure was 3.7%, and this rise in month of November is due to two reasons. First of all is favorable base effect, which means the IIP figures in November 2023 must have been low, and compared to November 2023, the 2024 November figures are higher. This is what the base effect is all about. Whenever the earlier instance is low, so you'll expect in comparison to that, we will see a greater increase in the IIP figures. Now, another factor in increase in IIP is pickup in manufacturing, capital goods and consumer durables. So, from our exams perspective, we have to identify the sections which are covered by IIP and what is IIP actually all about. So, let us try to understand more about index of industrial production. Now, this index measures quantum of changes in the India's industrial production. The base year for use of calculation of IIP is 2011 and 12, and it is compiled and published on 12th of every month by the National Statistical Office, which is under the Ministry of Program or Statistics and Program Implementation. Now, they are published every month on 12th, but whenever there is a holiday on 12th, which is on Sunday, it is usually published before it. Now, this data which is published by National Statistical Office, it is compiled from data which is received from source agencies, and these source agencies, they source their data from various factories and establishments. Now, the index, it comprises of many different sectors. First of all, there are sectoral classification which includes mining, manufacturing and electricity, and the weightages of different sector I have provided you here in the table. So, you do not have to remember the exact weights which are attributed to the sectors, but what is important is that manufacturing has the highest share, that is 77.63%, whereas the least share in sectoral classification is electricity, which just has about 8% of share. Now, coming to the use based classification, these are categorized into 6 different categories: primary, intermediate and capital goods, infrastructure construction goods, as well as consumer durables, as well as consumer non-durables. And in that, again, you do not have to remember weightage. You have to remember that primary goods has the highest weightage, and capital goods has the least amount of weightage. Understood? So, only these are important, that which sector in sectoral classification has the highest or the lowest weightage, and which category in use based classification has the highest or the lowest weightage. Understood? Now, let us try to solve another practice question on IIP. Consider the following statements related to Index of Industrial Production. It is compiled and published every month by the Office of Economic Advisor under Ministry of Commerce and Industry. This is incorrect because it is Index of Core Industries, which is published by Office of Economic Advisor, whereas the Index of Industrial Production, it is published by National Statistical Office, which is a part of Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. Now, second statement, the current base year for the calculation of IIP is 2011 and 12, a fact-based statement, although it is correct, and it gives highest weightage to the manufacturing sector, which I have already told you, it has weightage of more than 77%. So, which of the above statement is or are correct? Second and third is correct, hence only 2 is the right answer. Understood? Now, this question or the format of this question has been curated because these kind of questions were asked by UPSC in order to eliminate the possibility of using the elimination method by candidates. Understood? Now, let us move to the last article of the day. This one appeared in the world page of Indian Express, that was page 7, and this relates to H1B visa, which is an issue between India and US, hence it is a part of IR syllabus. Now, H1B visa, it is in news because Donald Trump is expected to be in office by 20th of January, and one of his policies has been against the immigration into US. And which kind of peoples primarily immigrate to Indians? The high skilled workforce belonging or taking the H1B visa, and hence H1B visa program was in news because of the point of contention among Donald Trump supporters. So, let us try to understand which sectors or which section of people does or are eligible for H1B visa and how many H1B visas are issued every year. Now, it is a kind of visa which allows the US employers or US based companies to employ high skilled foreign workers who are specialized in their occupations. Now, what are these specialized occupations? First of all, you understand the educational requirements for such visa are high, that only people who have a bachelor's degree or a higher degree in any specific field of study, they can only get H1B visa, and they need to have a specialized skill or expertise, particularly in sectors such as information technology, engineers, doctors, scientists, etc. These are eligible to get H1B visa. Now, this program was established in the year 1990 because US faced a crunch or deficit of skilled workers, and therefore it needed skilled workers from other countries to man its offices and organizations which are located in United States, and hence this H1B visa program was introduced. Now, the eligibility criteria for this visa is that it is valid for up to 6 years. Initially, it is issued for 3 years and it can be renewed for another 3. And once this period of 6 years is completed, the worker, they are expected either to leave the United States or they can apply for seeking the permanent residency, which is also known as a green card. Now, annually 65,000 of H1B visas are issued based on lottery system. However, additionally 20,000 visas are also issued for advanced degrees if people have sought advanced degrees from US universities, and these people are eligible for these 20,000 extended visas. Now, the amount of visas issued primarily are cornered by Indians as usually, because they account for over 70% of visas which have been issued since 2015. And the second demography which corners the large amount of share in H1B visas are Chinese national, as they corner about 12 to 13% of visas which have been approved since 2018. So the beneficiary of these program primarily are Indians, and if there are changes to H1B visa, the section of persons who will be affected the most will also be Indians, and that is why such an issue is important from news perspective and also from UPSC's perspective. Understood? Now this is the practice question for the day. Please answer your questions in the comment section. I will be taking this question again on Monday. Now, good morning MK Raj, you joined this class late. Now, I will move to the practice question of the day that I told you. The Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners has introduced a significant changes in the selection process and service condition of Election Commission of India. We need to analyze the impact of this legislation on the independence and functioning, and we have to write this question in just 150 words, which makes answer writing challenging. Now, naturally, we can divide our answer into 3 sections: introduction, body, as well as conclusion. Now, we'll start our introduction to the answer by quoting Article 324, as it highlights there needs to be a Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners as decided by the President of India. However, their conditions and terms of office are determined by a legislation passed by Parliament of India. So, this will set the context of our answer writing, which will include the Article 324 responsible for Chief Election Commissioner and Election Commissioners of India. Now, the body of this answer will include changes made according to the Act, that you have to highlight there needs to be a search committee, as this search committee will identify people belonging to the rank of secretary and above in the government of India, and this will identify 5 people, and this 5 people will be considered by a selection committee which comprises of which individuals? Prime Minister of our country, Leader of Opposition in Lok Sabha, as well as a cabinet minister appointed by the Prime Minister himself. So, this is what the changes made by the committee was all about. And also, you'll mention the tenure of office, that is, they serve for a period of 5 years or 65 years of age, which one is earlier, and also they can be removed in office by similar method of that of a Supreme Court judge. So, this is what you will write in the body of the answer, and you will conclude this answer by analyzing the impact of this legislation on independence and functioning of CC, and you will say that as this process of selection includes the members of opposition also, hence you can say it is less politically motivated, rather it increases the autonomy of the selection and working of Chief Election Commissioner. And you can also include a suggestion, if we were to include Chief Justice of India in the selection committee, it will make process more inclusive and transparent in nature, because we will see participation both from executive as well as legislature and judiciary in selecting the new Chief Election Commissioners. So, this is how you will conclude your answer, by giving your analysis on the impact of this legislation on independence and functioning of Election Commission. Understood? So, this was all for today's discussion. If you have any problem in writing this answer, or if you want to get your answers evaluated, you can always submit your answers to me on the Telegram group, the QR code for which is provided here. And I will take your leave for today. I'll see you again sharp at 10 AM on Monday. So, until then, keep revising, keep reading, keep analyzing, and more importantly, keep writing your answers.